Flacco, can you call the roll?
Jennifer Harden is absent. Belinda Grassley.
Here.
Tom Hack.
Here.
Lori Kaminsky.
Here.
Jack Miley.
Here.
We can all rise for the pledge, please. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, I would like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public comment during the meeting in the public participation section on the agenda. First, I would like to call for, put a motion on for the approval of minutes from the October 28th, 2021 special meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Can we call the roll?
Belinda Grassley.
Aye.
Tom Hack.
Aye.
Lori Kaminsky.
Aye.
Jack Miley.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next up, we have special reports.
Would you mention it over to our principal, Mr. Liaison? Why don't you come on up? Yeah.
Thank you for having us at the board meeting. I wanted to introduce the Veterans Committee, who was responsible for applying for the Purple Star Award that was recently awarded to Riverside High School by the Ohio Department of Education. So I'd like to introduce the committee members that are here with us tonight. One of our history teachers, Jenny Cavell. One of our retired phys ed teachers, Becky Bartholomew. And one of our community members, Rich Brady, is a veteran also. Rich, do you want to tell us where you served at or your branch?
Vietnam vet. I was in the Marine Corps from 64 to 68, Vietnam in 67 and 68. At 20 years old, I became a platoon commander with 48 guys to keep alive, so I had to grow up quick. I did get wounded twice. But this committee is some of the finest people I've ever had the opportunity to work with, and their dedication to make this happen just totally impressed me, and I thank them and this community for recognizing veterans.
Thank you, Rich. Yeah, Rich has been a great help on the committee for us. You're a great resource. You have connections with a lot of different groups that we don't, so we appreciate all your help. And you're with the Gunny Club, is that correct?
I'm chairman for the Marine Corps Foundation here in Lake County. I did well in life, so I wanted to be able to give back. We are a 501c4. We do scholarships at Lakeland Community College. We also do a lot of funding for Deepwood, which is the mentally handicapped, besides veterans. It makes me feel like I wanted to help.
Great. We appreciate everything you've done for us. The other members that are part of our committee that could not be here tonight are Rich Frimo, assistant principal at the high school, Jeff Eccles, history teacher at the high school, and Rich Schmidt, who's the literacy coach at the high school. So they're all part of the committee, and unfortunately they were not able to be here with us tonight. So what I wanted to do is just show a little bit about what our application for this award looked like. Again, the Ohio Department of Education has a process where if you want to be recognized as a Purple Star school, you have to complete this application. You just don't choose anybody. And there's certain criteria you have to have. You have to show what you do to support military people in your community, veterans, and people in your school. So we put together a PowerPoint presentation for you. This was the application that was submitted, okay? And Nick helped put this together since he knows more about media things than I do. So thank you, Nick. What do I do?
Down button.
Try me out here. Yeah, it's gonna be on.
Okay, great. All right. So one of the things is Veterans Day. So as everybody knows, at the campus and a lot of the schools that are in our district, we have Veterans Day programs. At the campus, this has been going on for some time, and we take great pride in welcoming our veterans to the campus, putting a program on for them, and having a luncheon for them. I'm going to have Jenny Cavell. She's really responsible for putting on the Veterans Day programs each year at the campus. So it's kind of like her passion. She takes it, really serious and really gets involved. And I'm going to have her just talk a little bit about what goes into the Veterans Day programs.
When I first started teaching here 21 years ago, somebody else in my department was honoring veterans, usually by having them come in and they were guest speakers. And it was really educational for the students to hear that. But when I decided to kind of switch it around, it was going to be more the students offering up gratitude. I thought that was long overdue. So the inspiration was really to have the kids be involved in this more so than just the teachers. So we started with creating a Google Classroom for kids to submit letters of gratitude. And then we would select them as a history department on who could come and read that day and invite veterans in our community to come and listen. The band plays music for them, the choir sends kids down to sing, and then we wanted to give them lunch afterwards. So all they have to do is show up and just sit there and enjoy what the kids do. And I feel like the last couple of years, especially because I now have repeat customers who look forward to it every single year, they said it's unlike anything else that they typically go to, especially from the teenage perspective. They really appreciate that part of it, to hear the kids say thank you. We just did this last week, a week ago today, and we had out in the field house, which was a little bit a different setup than we have done in the past, but the kids, there were 157 letters that I had to go through to read, and it's hard to narrow it down to 12 to 15 kids. And these kids wrote just the most amazing things, and I have a couple of guys who come every year, and they just can't thank you enough for doing it. So it is a passion of mine, he's right. Part of that passion comes from my own family. My dad enlisted in 1967 in the U.S. Navy during the Vietnam War, and my grandpa was drafted at 17 to fight during World War II in the Pacific. Me emotional. So they are part of the reason why I do this every year, because it makes me really proud to have family who have contributed to the great life that I have today. They are my role models, and they are role models for my sons who are teenagers, and it's a way for me to honor my own family as well.
Thank you. She does a great job. She also does a display case by the auditorium every year. So we really appreciate everything that you've done for our programs here for the veterans.
She also cooks the lunch herself.
Yeah.
I feel like that's noteworthy. And she makes phenomenal pumpkin squares, but that's just a side note.
I told her
From all of the
you don't have to do that. We just, we'll buy them for you. And she's like, no, I have to bake something.
My mom helps me a lot too. I can't take all the credit. My mother does not.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Another thing that we do at the campus, we do Military Signing Day. So we recognize the students that are going to be enlisting in the military each year at the end of the school year. You might see some schools promote like the athletes that are getting scholarships or going to play sports at different institutions. We also recognize the students that are going into the different branches of the military with a ceremony each year. And we typically have the students, their families come out, and the recruiters also join us. This past year, we were able to do it at the wall, at the Veterans Wall at the stadium, which was really nice. It was a really nice ceremony. But this has been a very popular thing that we do now each year, and the attendance for it has been growing each year. So we're really happy and really proud that we do this for our kids. Wall of Honor. So as you know, out in the stadium, we constructed a Wall of Honor, and this was a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of meetings, but I think it's a very, it's something that we were all very proud of here in our school district. and in our community too. I think it's something that speaks to our support of veterans and our support of the military in this district. Becky Bartholomew, I know, and the whole committee really has been very instrumental in constructing the wall. Becky was hounding people to buy t-shirts to help fund the bricks and the wall. But I'm going to have her talk a little bit about the wall.
You know, it's probably one of the most beneficial projects I have ever been involved with, most rewarding. I can remember there was an email sent out by, I think, Mr. Frimmel, saying anybody that's interested in helping honor our veterans meet in the media center after school, blah, blah, blah. So I went, and really the people that are still on the committee are the people that went to that meeting. And we were sitting there, kind of throwing ideas around about how we could do this and where we could do it, and we knew that we had to raise the money. And I think we are all amazed. I can remember being in Mr. Kalis's office one day after we dedicated the wall, and he goes, I had no idea. He goes, I thought it was going to be just this little wall with some bricks, and we were going to say, congratulations to the veterans and honor the veterans. We started out thinking we needed about $17,000. Well, we spent that like within the first 2 weeks. I was sitting at a department chair meeting, and Laura Poggi happened to be sitting next to me, and we started talking about how we could raise money. And I said, well, t-shirts. And so we kind of threw some ideas around. So of course she had a contact that could to design the t-shirt. And then we had Reed Activewear, who has children in the district. He said, yeah, we're okay. So I can't tell you how many thousand t-shirts we've sold. The elementary kids have been wonderful. When we were really thinking that we were needed more money, they were having penny drives. I know the administrators don't necessarily like this idea, but if we did not have Gene Days for the last 3 years, we'd have been in trouble. And it's been remarkable, just the number of teachers that don't wear the jeans, but they donate the money. And we have some vendors that we're talking to. We're still trying to get flags. Flags are hard to get now. They're more expensive. So we're still doing Gene Days. And I send the vendors the pictures of the flags, and they cannot believe what we've done without spending any district monies. And I have taken, when I sub here now, I take the students out when it's weather okay, and I take them to the wall, and I explain to them, why we have that wall. And last week when I was here, I realized that there have been, since I started teaching here in 1993, I've had 7 students, 7, that have died while enlisted. And so other high schools have asked me how we did it, and I'm stingy. I don't want them to do what we did, so I make them come up with their own ideas. I don't want copycats. I think what we are the only high school that I know of in the United States of America that flies the Space Force flag. I don't think, and I say something to other people about the Space Force, and they go, what? I go, yeah, we have the flag.
I had the thing in the showcase. You see that? Yeah, I got the Space Force logo.
Yeah, so and the kiosk that we're doing in the lobby has all 6 military branches. We honor all of our graduates or even students that served and gave the ultimate sacrifice. As soon as COVID is done and we're allowed to touch things again, the touch screen will go up, and it's going to be absolutely remarkable. Again, nobody else, Perry has a very nice display, and we kept, somebody from Perry came to one of our first meetings and explained what they had. We have above and beyond what they have, and I'm so proud of Riverside and what we do for our veterans. There are veterans that I see at Giant Eagle and at other places that I end up crying while I'm shopping because, especially the Vietnam vets, You know, just to name a few, John Saracey, Ed Watson. You know, they were treated like dirt, and I'm sure, you know, you had a couple of those experiences. And they say, you know, no one did this for us when we came back, and we are so proud of our community doing that for us now. So, you know, a feather in all of your hats for letting us do it. And it's been, like I said, just a marvelous experience for all of us on the committee.
Yeah, it really has. It's been a great feeling just to show the support. It's a teachable moment for our kids too. Everything that we do relates back to the students that we have. So,
Okay, are you still selling bricks?
Pardon me?
You still selling bricks?
We-
I didn't know if you
I just happened to
I
have.
don't know if you would like to plug that as well.
No, we do. We still have bricks, and I sent an email out. We have bricks available on the side, and then we extended the
Plaza?
pavers, the concrete, so that we have a non-flag side. And that is about, it's not, we've got plenty of bricks left for purchase. One comment that I got from a teacher this week is when she needs to talk to her brother, she goes to the wall because she bought him a brick. So, yes, bricks are available.
yeah, and, like whoever comes to like a football game, like the team that came from West Virginia, some of the people were milling around before the game and were actually at the wall and asking a lot of questions about it. So they were really impressed. So it came out really nice, and you know, we did a great job, the whole committee, and the people that bought bricks were very appreciative of. Okay, so this is the kiosk that she was talking about. It's indoors. It's in the lobby of the auditorium. In the center, where there's like that American flag, that's where the TV is going to go. It's an interactive TV, so you'll be able to touch it, and it'll pull up all the different veterans that attended Riverside schools. So it's broken down, I think, by the branches. We get hit on like, so it'll be like a menu. You hit Navy, and it'll show you all the names of the people that were in the Navy that attended Riverside.
It'll also go by your graduation.
Your graduation.
Or when you were employed here.
Yeah.
So anybody that was employed will be on it.
And the program was built, the whole computer program was actually built by some of our students who went to Auburn, who were in the IT, the computer classes in Auburn. They actually wrote the program and for that, so it's pretty neat. And there's actually, on our website, on our district website, there's resources for military families. If you go to our homepage under community, there's a whole bunch of resources that we have listed for military families. Everything from Lake County support groups to scholarships for kids of military veterans. You name it, it's on there. And we've taken a lot of these from the different organizations throughout the state. The ODE has a lot of resources for military families, and we just kind of cut and pasted and made it one-stop shopping for all our military families. Last year, the board adopted a resolution in support of military children and families. So that was also included in our application to the state, how the board supports the different veterans and families of military people in our district. And this is just, just a wrap up of just some pictures from the different events, the military signing days, Veterans Days. Mr. Hack, you're over there. So again, I just wanted to just commend the Veterans Committee and just explain a little bit about what the Purple Star was and how proud we are to have earned it. Yeah, if you want to show that. So this is what we got. This is hanging in our office. If you walk in the high school office, you'll see this. So that's the official banner that we were given by the Ohio Department of Education. And you see it's good from now until 2024. You have to reapply. So every 3 years you have to go through the reapplication process to show what you're doing to continue your support of the veterans and the military families in your community. So again, just wanted to explain what it was and commend our committee and to thank the board for your support.
Thank you. Yeah, just a clarification, we did have that conversation in my office, and Mrs. Bartholomew is 99% right. When they came to me about the wall, I was told we were going to do it all on our own, and that's what kind of concerned me. We're not professionals with walls and bricks and things like that. What would it look like? And once it was built, I couldn't believe it, how nice it was. I mean, it's made that part of the stadium just so much better. And there are a lot of people I've noticed, even during the day, when we're in the confines of the school teaching, there are people that are out there, some community members that come in every once in a while. Some will take a couple laps around, look at the wall. Some will come in just for that reason. And also with Mrs. Cavell, a couple of years ago, she started this whole program recognizing veterans, and does such a nice job with the program. I was over there a couple days back, and again, it was just such a nice program. I don't know what we'll do once you're not here, possibly retired in 25 years. And one other thing, the whole thing about jeans, that's true. We have had jeans. Mrs. Bartholomew has asked several times if we could have jeans. We're allowed to wear jeans on a Wednesday, pay $5. The only caveat to all that was Chuck was not allowed to wear jeans. And I was fine with it.
And I wear my blue khakis on those days.
That concludes our report.
All right, next we'll move on to discussion of old business. Is there anyone at the table that has any old business to bring up? All right, having none, we'll move on to discussion of new business. All right, having none, we'll move on to the Board of Education Committee and Liaison reports. First up is the Superintendent's Business Advisory Liaison. Mrs. Herman is not here, but I do think that at their last meeting, they toured the school store. I don't know much else about that. I just remember I saw pictures of that. So, Jim, if you have any update on that.
It was, what day was it?
Last Friday.
Last Friday. It's all starting to blend in. We have a marketing class that instead of just talking about theory, it's more practicality, more hands-on, where our students are running their own store, designing their own products, keeping their own books, providing store hours. And it was all done through a grant from the Martha Holding Jennings Foundation. And the kids are very excited about it. Mr. Ross will be the teacher that will be teaching that class. And what we did is we used one of the rooms upstairs, and we have these shirt presses. People can have all different kinds of combinations of shirts that they might want to have. They had one where our teachers union actually ordered. They get t-shirts once a year, and they ordered it from this particular class. You want to add anything?
No, it's an exciting endeavor, not just because the kids are starting a store, but because of the possibilities for moving on and learning about business and moving forward and offering that as a senior program. So it's lots of exciting things, and that's just the start of it.
And I understand the business advisory members all got a shirt.
They did.
They made their own, they got to make their shirt, right?
Yep, it was pretty cool.
Awesome. All right, nothing else? We'll move on to curriculum and programming with Mr. Miley.
Okay, this past month with the curriculum and programming and also the boosters, we have had no meetings.
Well, all right then. Mr. Hack, we're going to move on to Buildings and Grounds Operations Committee and the Alumni Association.
We've had no meetings either, so nothing to report.
Yes, that's easy. All right, Mrs. Krasinski is going to discuss Policy Committee and Strategic Plan.
So for the policy committee, we, in today's agenda, there's the first read of some new policy. So we'll take a look at that, and we have a meeting December 2nd to go over the policy and ask any questions so that we can put that then on, hopefully for a second read with no changes possibly in December, pending. Strategic plan, so Dr. Kalis and Patty Coswell provided us with an updated timeline. Is that enough? Yeah. Timeline for the strategic plan. Just a couple things to note in here. They'll be coming back to the board in January to give us an update on where the plan is and kind of next step before they go out to the community and reach out for feedback and additional input into the strategic plan. So there's a point in there in January. There's no date officially because we don't know our meeting dates in January yet. So when we get that, they'll be included there. The next return is in March to the board with a presentation of the strategic plan to the board. And then we'll start developing the action items developed from there as far as how we start executing.
During my presentation, I'll be asking the board to look at their agenda, their calendars, to see if we can get a meeting for about an hour on February 3rd. So if you'd like to look at that, and maybe once my presentation is going, we can talk. We're talking maybe around 7:30, 8:30 in the morning. Patty and Lisa will be here to update the board on this strategic plan.
So looking at this, we're not looking to have this completed till at least May, correct?
Yeah, it's a couple months behind, but we're getting there.
Okay. Was there anything else?
Nope, that is it.
All right.
December 3rd.
What?
Did you say December 3rd?
February.
February.
Oh, okay. I'm busy.
All right. All right, moving on, we're going to go update from the superintendent for the superintendent's report.
My report is really brief. I know we're doing the 5-year forecast today. So our standard report in terms of COVID numbers, I'm not going to belabor it, but like I said, I'm trying to make it a habit of at least getting the board about every month. First slide again shows the number since the beginning of the school year on August 26th. We've had 358 identified COVID cases reported to us. Those numbers represent the numbers in each of the schools. Obviously, Riverside campus, being the largest school, has the most COVID cases, and then Maynooth. And then Parkside happens to be third, even though Riverview is larger than Parkside. But those are the numbers. These are the COVID-19 positive cases by week. As you're going to see, last week was a very good week for us in terms of COVID. We had 60 identified cases, and if you look at the other weeks, it is the highest from the beginning of the year. It has died down quite a bit, but the 30 that is represented under week 13 only represents Monday through Wednesday at this point. It's not only an uptick in our district, it's an uptick everywhere, according to what we see in the news. This is our district compared to other Lake County districts. Again, the numbers on the far right is what I want to point out or highlight. It's the number of percentage of students enrollment identified as having COVID. Again, we're a little bit higher, but we're still not the highest. In terms of per student COVID cases, Kirtland is 8.3. And Madison did not get back to us. We weren't sure whether or not their numbers are just students or whether or not they include staff. But since they didn't get back to us, I calculated the number and it was 9.3. And then we're 7.1. So out of the 9, we're the third right now. Remember, I always remind everyone who's watching this board meeting that these numbers never go down. You know, we kind of, once you have COVID, it goes, you know, the number's always going to increase.
So it's not active cases, it's cumulative.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Since August 26th, first day of school, we've had 534 non-active quarantines. This is in addition to the positive case numbers. So in other words, the numbers are separate. It's quarantine numbers, and we also have our COVID numbers. And again, the quarantine numbers, even though the COVID cases have been going up, the quarantine numbers have, and I'll show you, have gone down only because it's more lax in terms of the quarantine rules coming out of the health departments. These are the quarantines by week. As you can see early on, when quarantine was strongly encouraged, it's a lot higher than it is in week 12 or even week 13. And these are district-wide absences since the last board meeting. Again, these are total absences in the blue, and in the orange are the absences related to COVID. It's pretty steady in the last, week or two here. Strategic plan update. We talked about some of this already. We met with Patty Kozlow and Dr. Regal on Friday to update the strategic plan timeline. Most of that time we were talking about some other leadership approaches, and we also wanted to get at least a clear idea of where we're going with the timeline, since it was kind of put on the back burner for the first month or two of the start of the school year. It was not by design, but with everything going on, it was really, really difficult to fully commit to the development of the strategic plan when there were a lot of other pressing things that we had to deal with. So now that things have settled down, we're back at it again, and in my estimation, we're only behind by a couple of months. We are going to send surveys out to our parents in January. Also, I think it'll be the third week that we send those out. We also have student focus groups will be conducted on January 13th and 14th. And also parent community focus groups conducted on the 1st and 2nd. The strategic plan facilitators want to meet, again, like I said, with the board on February 3rd, sometime in the morning for about an hour. So I don't know if this is a good time to ask the board if they're available during that, on that day.
Sure, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I know how to ask what I want to ask you. If we're going to meet with them on the 3rd, and they're meeting with the student focus groups and parent focus groups before they meet with us, are there certain topics that she's going to be covering?
What I believe that they're going to do is come in and talk a little bit about what they found in those surveys with the board. Because they're looking at this as a holistic approach in terms of getting all the stakeholders and seeing how they feel about the district and sharing that information also with the board.
They are still going to be here in January, though, as planned, to give us an update on, here's what we're looking at, here's what we plan to do.
From what I understand, they are. I don't know that date though.
Right,
Because we haven't set a district board meeting.
right, so the idea is to come in January, give us an update of where they're going, kind of how things look, so that we can make sure we're all on the same page and we're all thinking the same thing when it comes to school strategy.
Let me check that.
Okay.
Because what I remember in the meeting was the February 3rd date.
Yeah,
So let me reach out to her tomorrow, and I will send a email to all of you.
So February 3rd is a Thursday, right? Is that because, are we thinking of doing our board meetings on Thursday? Is that what you're thinking? She's going to do it like in the evening at a board meeting?
No, this is in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is going to be in the morning.
They're coming in from out of town, they're gonna be here the 1st and the 2nd doing the community focus group, so they wanted to kind of get you guys in the morning, because they'll be here.
So can you remind me of the tentative date in January?
It's not on here right now. I just looked and now it's board outreach via email. So she may be thinking about sending a survey with some questions for us to make sure we're on the same page. It's a
Yeah, I
little
don't
bit different
remember
than
a
what we
formal
talked.
meeting in January. That's why I wanted to put a break on the discussion we're having.
Yeah.
The meeting is February 3rd.
Okay.
Are you able to meet in the morning on the 3rd?
What time, how much?
I cannot be here till 8 because of getting my son on the bus.
You can only.
I can start at 8. Yeah.
How long do we need?
An hour.
I would be available.
I'm sorry,
I would be available on the 3rd at
8 to 9?
Scott
Yes.
probably will be, so.
Yeah, Mr. Official, are you available?
Yes.
8 to 9 on February 3rd?
Yep.
As of now, yes.
We'll meet in the conference room, make sure it's available.
I believe Patty had mentioned, potentially what you're referring to about January is doing like the one-on-one Zooms again.
Right, and that's what it says in the timeline, is that board outreach via email process input and board outreach individual Zoom one-on-one. So initially, there was a discussion about possibly presenting, but it probably has changed based on what's in this now.
Jim, can you follow up with Jen and make sure she's available?
Only things I want to wrap up with is, we asked them to put out results of school levies throughout the state. And it was kind of strange, and I don't even know if Nick got an answer to this, but I noticed one of the things that they had was a bond. It was 1 out of 2 bonds passed. And I was thinking to myself, even around here, there's 2 bonds, right? There was one in Fairport and one in Chardon. One passed, one didn't. I'm thinking there can't only be 2 bonds in the whole state of Ohio. So we did a quick search, we found that there were a lot of other levies and bonds throughout the state. So we scrapped that slide because we didn't really understand what it represented. We didn't know if it was a regional thing, you know, it can't be a county because it was Geauga and Lake, right? We looked at Geauga County, Lake County, and Cuyahoga County, and looked at the number of and the type of levies that were up, and just update the board for whatever reason. We just wanted the board to see what's going on in the Tri-County area of school levies. So local school ballot issues in Lake County, there were 2. Those 2 were in Lake County. Fairport, obviously, 70% were for, 29% were against. They're part of the OFCC as well, except that the state share that they get's a whole heck of a lot higher than the state share we got. As you remember, the state share for us was 10%, and local taxpayers paid for 90% of the projects we had. And they're actually even the reciprocal, even, I think it was 93%, 92%? 93%. 93% comes from the state, and 7% from the local taxpayers. So for them not to pass that levy would have been crazy, because basically 93% of their building is going to be paid by people other than the local taxpayer in that community. Willoughby East Lake City Schools renewal levy passed, was close to the renewal. Chardon, we had a bond that generated, I think, $7.5 million. It failed pretty handedly.
If I may, what was the bond for?
It was for repairs and building stadium, seating, and doing roofs.
Yeah. They previously tried a bond issue to build new facilities, which failed, and then they went up with a smaller bond just to improve what they had.
Parking lots too, I think it was.
I think this one was less than $1 million, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah, it was small, but generated, I think, $7.5 million over a 15-year period. I think it was something like that. And then we just threw Cuyahoga County. There were only 2. Both were renewals. One was in Strongsville that passed, and one was in Independence. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kalis. So we will move on to the treasurer's report and the finance committee update. So unlike all of you who had no meeting, the finance committee meeting was held last Thursday at 8 a.m. and we had a number of things that we reviewed. We've been talking about the sheriff's department contract with the district, and that we approved it for 1 semester, and we will be having to approve that for a 2nd semester. We were talking about and reviewing the workers' comp and clarifying that in that contract. So that's going to be coming up for renewal in will that be December?
We'll have to figure that out, because I think they're going to have a meeting December 3rd, and then we probably have to update the agreement. I know they have to run through their.
So it may be the first meeting in January. Okay, so we'll have that. We did review the 5-year forecast. Gary will provide some more details on that when we're finished here talking about the committee, but the state funding for the 2021-22 school year is not yet determined. We'll know more in December. Triennial property tax increases are complete, but we don't have detail on that information yet, so the five-year forecast is kind of in flux right now. We're using estimates as best we can. And then we had some ESSER and COVID funding and relief grants that allowed the district to move operational expenses for salaries and things off to special funds. And so when we look at the five-year forecast, we'll see some anomalies in the year-to-year data. But that's as a result of the fact that we had extra funding that was in different funds other than the general fund. In January, the finance meeting, we're going to be reviewing not just the general fund, but all funds, because approximately 20% of our district funds reside in other funds other than just general funds. So we're going to review those hopefully quarterly. Mrs. Kroniski shared with the Finance Committee a copy of a district calendar from the OSBA conference that we had attended the week previously that kind of outlines a number of things that the board is responsible for from a policy standpoint that we're supposed to be reviewing. And so this was very handy, and that we're going to try and use that maybe as an example of something that we can move forward with as a board. And then the last thing we had a conversation was about phase 2 of our facility plan and trying to move forward with that, and that we had requested that Dr. Kalis reach out to TDA and get a meeting scheduled with our core team and TDA, and Mr. Fischel, if he is available to attend whenever that meeting may be. I don't know when that will be because we haven't scheduled that yet.
Yeah, I reached out for dates, but I haven't heard back yet from the team.
Yeah, if we could do that maybe right after Thanksgiving, that would be helpful. If the plan will be to proceed with a May 22 request for bond financing for phase 2, that will entail, just so the public understands, that will entail 2 votes in January to get that over to the auditor and to the Board of Elections. But we still need to do some groundwork with our architects and with the municipal bond advisors in order to get those ducks in a row. And we can't really do that until we have some information about property taxes.
The valuations, which
And
we
the
should have
valuations.
fairly soon.
And so those things are, in order, if we choose to move forward, we need to have that meeting in place, and we need to get some additional data again from the county. So just look for that soon, and we will have more information as we proceed. That's all I have. Mr. Platko, on with the 5-year forecast.
All right, a couple handouts here.
Mr. Fischel, do you have one of these?
I do, thank you.
I have an extra one here, too. This doesn't have any changes in it from previously, does it?
All right, before I get into the 5-year forecast, just have a couple of quick updates. The first update is, the county puts out a listing of delinquent property taxes each year. Riverside's listed in there, in that listing, because we had a couple parcels that became taxable this year due to some permits that were pulled, and we're working with legal counsel to get those back in exempt status. And they advised us not to pay those bills because we're a tax exempt
That's why we were in the
entity.
paper?
And that's how we made it into the paper, because we have
how
outstanding
many
property
phone calls
taxes we
I
haven't
got on
paid.
it?
I didn't see that.
So we're working through that and figuring out how to get us back into exempt status and get that squared away. So if you saw it in the newspaper, it's kind of
A lot of people saw it in the newspaper.
The next thing I have is for Moody's they're the ones that issue our bond rating. They do an annual issuer comment just to kind of update, an update on the district. So they issued a new comment on November 11th, and they're looking at fiscal year 2020 because they're looking at the last audited financial statement, so it's a little behind. It's actually a very short report they put out, but there's a couple of key points they point out here. I just kind of want to read their comments. They didn't give us a rating upgrade, obviously. They kept us the same, and they don't typically change ratings unless we would kind of request it through a formal review process, which costs us money to do that. Some of the things they mentioned was, Riverside's credit position is solid, and the A1 rating is slightly lower than the U.S. school district median of AA3, so we have a little bit lower rating than median. I think our rating is too low, but that's, discussion for another day with them. They said key credit factors include a healthy economy, a strong enrollment trend, a robust financial position, slightly elevated leverage, and very modest fixed costs. And basically, it says Riverside has a healthy economy and the enrollment trend is solid. Overall, the factor is slightly favorable relative to the A1 rating. It says that our resident income, so like our average income for the community, is 139% of the U.S. median average, which is very healthy. Also says, through fiscal 2021, our 3-year enrollment trend is increasing at 0.9%, which is, a small increase, but, in Ohio, the tendency is you're decreasing enrollment. In full value per capita of $88,366 is satisfactory. Then it says the district has a superb financial position that is very favorable with respect to the A1 rating, and our available fund balance of ratio of 32.9%. So basically looking at what our fund balance is compared to our expenditures is strong. So it was a lot of positive things, and it's funny because they have a little table here that kind of shows our financial position that's getting increasingly better each year. And it's just funny that, they're going to hold tight on the rating for whatever reason, but they keep saying positive things about the district, so it's good to see that.
So can I just interject? So if we move forward with phase 2, we eventually will be headed back up to Chicago to request it, an upgrade.
Right. And there's a
What
cost
I
to that too,
anticipate.
because we, if you remember a couple months ago, we were in a position of possibly refinancing some of our bonds, and then the market moved away from us. We would have done a formal presentation at that time and requested an upgrade, but there's a cost to doing that comes out of the proceeds. We could have still moved forward with that, which, if you end up not doing refinancing, I think we would be on the hook for about $20,000 for a new bond rating, and it didn't seem like it really made sense to do that. But, if we were to move forward and do another bond issue that was successful, we would go back and go through that whole process again.
Right. Just so that the public understands, the better your bond rating, the lower your interest cost, so that's helpful for us to go and do that.
Another thing I've been working on behind the scenes, we are a member of the Ohio Checkbook website. For some reason, our state software has a program that you run it and it updates the website automatically. We switched to the redesign because we were required to. It worked for a little bit, then it quit working, and so our checkbook website had not been updated since February of this year, and I finally got it all squared away, so now we're updated through September, and I'll have to get updated for October and November, but now it's more could be more updated on a more regular basis for anybody who tries to go out there and take a look at it. Next thing is, last month we approved the emergency connectivity grant through the E-rate process, where we were awarded a grant to purchase 1,571 Chromebooks at no cost to the district. That's all been approved, and we've ordered those from CDW, and those have shipped, so they are on their way here. So we're receiving all those very soon, and then we'll request the reimbursement through the E-rate process. I think it's a little bit shy of $500,000 for all those Chromebooks. So that's nice for us to get those funds allocated to us. I did send an email yesterday, the 2 late additions on the finance agenda for the welding lab equipment. Since we were awarded the welding lab grant of $545,000, we've decided to move forward with some of the equipment that we decided not to purchase when we went on our own with this project previously. But now that we've been awarded that grant, we're going to use some of those funds to purchase those other equipment. Because right now the teacher is taking materials off-site to Lakeland to cut materials and then bring them back, which is very inefficient, and better to have those pieces of equipment on site to support the welding lab. And that grant for the welding lab is it's funded through the state's ESSER allocation. That's the emergency schools and emergency secondary school emergency relief fund, something like that, whatever the acronym is. The state ran into the same issue they ran into last spring, where they did not appropriate all of the ESSER funds. So right now, the state of Ohio cannot reimburse any school district for any of their ESSER purchases until the legislature goes back and approves a new appropriation. And last I checked, there hasn't been a bill introduced to do that yet, so any ESSER reimbursements will be delayed probably for several months. So that welding lab grant that we did receive will probably be on hold until that all gets resolved by the state legislature. Also on tonight's agenda, there's a remote EDX grant through Perry. That's also funded through ESSER funds, so that will probably delay, that one's only $25,000, but that will delay those funds. And also our own district's own ESSER funding. I think right now we're in a negative balance, about $280,000. That's also going to be held up until the state approves that new appropriation. So that's not, that's happening in all school districts right now, and it'll eventually get resolved, but it's just one of those things that you made a mistake once before, and then they repeated and did it again. So, and then lastly, we already mentioned the facilities plan update, that we're waiting for dates from TDA to have further discussions on that. And then we'll go into the 5-year forecast. We're required to do the 5-year forecast. So we kind of have a standard presentation we kind of go through each time we do this, so we're required to do this twice a year. So on the first slide here is just a link to guidance to the Ohio Department of Education. That has a nice little guide of how to read a 5-year forecast and what each of the line items mean on the forecast. Just want to mention this PowerPoint slide, along with the forecast and assumptions, will get posted on the Treasurer website of our district website. Then we'll get filed with the Ohio Department of Education and posted on their site as well. So the 5-year forecast, real important here is, it contains estimates based on the best information available at this time. We're required to file it in May and November of each fiscal year. It shows 3 years of historical data and 5 years of projected data, which includes the current fiscal year, which we're in fiscal year 22 right now. The numbers on the forecast only tell a small part of the story. There's assumptions to the forecast that's important to read to understand what goes into those numbers. I did not print copies of those for tonight, because it's about 17 pages, and printing 5 or 6 copies, you can just read it on electronically. And our forecast includes the general fund and the Lake County School Financing District Fund. So that's a little bit unique, but it's required to be the general fund, and because the financing district fund is so integral to the operations, that we include that in our forecast as well. So some of the key points. Executive overview, we're solvent through the end of the fiscal year 26, which is the 5th year of the forecast. There could be some remaining expenses due to COVID-19, but we've been trying to defer those to federal relief funds. Deficit spending is projected to start in fiscal year 2024 now. That's where your expenditures exceed your revenues. Right now we're in fiscal year 22, which is the start of a new biennium budget, with the Fair School Funding Plan starting to be implemented. Those details have been delayed till December, so we still don't know what our funding looks like as of July 1st, 2021. And the forecast is due November 30th, and then they'll show us the details of state funding after that time. So right now it's based on best estimates. And then when you think about it, fiscal years 2024 and 2026 start the next 2 biennium budgets. So not only guessing the current budget, we're guessing what the next 2 might look like. So there's a lot of assumptions that go into it. The Fair School Funding Plan, it was originally intended to be a 6-year phase-in. They eliminated the 6-year phase-in when they implemented it, because they didn't want to tie the hands of future legislatures, which is understandable. And I guess time will tell whether they continue to implement that plan or switch it to something else at some point. It's all to be determined. So here's just a very brief overview of the forecast, showing what our beginning cash balance is for fiscal year 22. Our current fiscal year is $19.2 million. We're projecting revenues for $50.5 million, expenditures of $47.5 million or so, which gives us a revenue surplus of $2.9 million, which will increase our cash balance right now at $22.1 million towards the end of the fiscal year. And then you can see future years going on in fiscal year 2024, you can see in the red where we start spending more than our revenue at that point. Here's a pie chart of our revenues, and obviously General property tax makes up the largest portion, 58% of that. 29.5 million of our revenue is through general property tax revenue. Our total revenues is 50.5 million. So what makes up the other remaining portion is public utility tax. It makes up about 6% or 2.8 million. Unrestricted grants and aid, that's our state funding from the state, the Fair School Funding Plan, and also casino revenue, which is around $200,000 a year. There's restricted grants and aid, about 1%, $372,000. There's another blue in the top left there. It says property tax allocation. That's how the state defines it. It's actually your homestead rollback reimbursements. That makes about 8% of our revenue. And then other operating revenues, about 4.2 million, where 8% of that is, that also includes the Lake County School Financing District, which brings in about 2.6, 2.7 million. The rest is other revenue items such as pay to participate fees, classroom fees, interest income, other revenues that we receive that don't fall into the category. Then there's all other financing sources of 1,889,000. Normally that section is much smaller. That is basically, we advanced funds last fiscal year, at the end of the fiscal year, to our ESSER fund to cover a negative fund balance, because those grants are on a reimbursement basis. That gets returned in the following fiscal year, so that's why that revenue is, it's kind of an anomaly. It's like overinflated this year, just because it's return of money that we advanced last year. One thing I'll point out is the unrestricted grants and aid and restricted grants and aid. I can guarantee those numbers are not correct. In the new Fair School Funding Plan, there is more restricted revenues, so there's student wellness funds that receive now through state funding. We used to get it and deposit in Fund 467. Now it's part of the Fair School Funding Plan, goes into the general fund. There's also some new calculations for gifted funding and disadvantaged pupil funding. But because we don't know what those numbers are, we just kind of kept it the same as it was last year. So essentially, those two sections will flip-flop. So the unrestricted will go down, restricted will go up by whatever that final calculation is. It'll probably be a net effect close to zero in the forecast, but rather than just guessing what it could possibly be, we figured we just kind of keep it this way until we actually see what those calculations are. And then in May, we'll update it to be more of what it truly comes down to be. Any questions so far on that? Since property taxes is our biggest source of revenue, I always like to include this slide, just showing what our current levies are. We go through this frequently, but we have our inside millage of 4.8 mils, and then the remaining voted levies bring our general fund millage to 30.27. This is our effective tax rate for residential property. Then we have a permanent improvement fund, it's currently at 2.3 mils, and then our phase one debt, which was the Bill Parkside Riverview, is collecting at 1.58 mils for a total millage of 34.15 mils, and that does not include the financing district, which is separate, which is about 2.27 mils on top of that. So where do we fall in Lake County? You can see we're the third lowest at 34.15. We can factor in the financing district, we're still third lowest because the financing district is Painesville City, Riverside, Madison, and Perry. We never count Perry because they have the nuclear power plant, so they receive so much revenue from there. Typically, Riverside and Madison are usually the next lowest ones. It basically depends on who passed the last operating levy. Fairport Harbor just passed their bond issue, so I believe it's 4.3 mils, approximately what it was, so they'll increase up the list there. But it's always good to kind of see where we fall among the county. On the expenditure side, salary and benefits makes up about 78% of our expenditures, which is pretty typical in the state of Ohio. One thing I forgot to mention earlier with the implementation of the Fair School Funding Plan, our revenue from the state goes down because now we're funded based on the kids that we actually educate in our building, where before we were funded on the number of kids that attended public schools that lived in our community. It was called ADM, so it included kids that attended public charter schools or STEM school, like the iSTEM High School, and So those numbers are no longer included in our funding, those are funded directly. So our revenue technically goes down for state funding, but on the expenditure side here, purchase services, which is our third largest expenditure area, we no longer account for those deductions that came out of our state funding. So, for example, if you look at the actual forecast, purchase services last year was 8.6 million. This year, we're projecting 6.3 million. And what that, most of that change is we're not counting for, also open enrollment is now funded directly. So instead of us reporting an expenditure of 1.1 million of open enrollment going out to other districts, that goes away. There was also a John Peterson scholarship for 230,000 and autism scholarships for 48,000. Those are now funded directly, so those expenses aren't accounted in our books. And we also don't account for community school transfers of 736,000 and STEM school kids that go to I-STEM high school, $303,000. So if you add it all up, it's just shy of 2.5 million that our expenditures go down due to those things being funded directly instead of running through our books and then being deducted from us. So it makes it really hard to follow. If you're looking at prior years and you're looking at the full forecast, you're going, well, how did the expenditures in that line drop? But also salary and benefits also dropped a little bit because we moved salaries over to ESSER in FY20 and 21 and 22. So it's hard to have comparable years with the forecast. There's a lot of changes that occurred.
So if I was tracking clearly, our expenses go down over $2 million,
Right.
and our revenue is going to go down a similar amount, or do we not have a real good beat on that yet?
We don't have a real good feed on that, but there's a guarantee in well, there's multiple guarantees, the way I understand it, in the fair school funding plans. No one's going to get anything less once the dust settles. So your net effect is no one's going to get less than what they got last fiscal year. But the hard part is we don't see those calculations yet. So it's, from what I've heard is most districts are doing better based on the initial calculations that ODE prepared, but until we see the details, it's hard to know if we're truly where we should be. But at the same time, we shouldn't be any worse off than we were before, but it looks like right now we're going to be better off just because of that direct funding of those items. Plus, it's all kind of based on projections from the Legislative Service Commission, and that was using older data, so enrollments have changed, and it's hard to really know what the true calculation looks like until we see it. I wouldn't expect anything dramatically to change, but I can't guarantee that as well.
Right, we just literally don't know.
Right.
Thank you.
And as far as other expenditure areas, capital outlay is real small, just because we use our permanent improvement fund for most of those. And then the other large one is other financing uses, which is 1.9 million or so. That is transfers out to, we transfer funds to our permanent improvement fund based on the savings we generated by moving ESSER expenses, and also our annual transfer to the termination benefits fund and the athletics fund. And then this slide here is just our cash balance in true days. ODE recommends you maintain at least a 30 to 60 day cash balance. You can see we've been building a cash balance over the last several years. So right now we're actually in a pretty healthy place, estimating true cash balance in days of 167 days at the end of this fiscal year. If you remember back in the 2012 time when we were in not so good shape, there was less than 7 days of cash balance. I think back in the 2012 or so. So we've done a good job to build up that over the years. And then on the last slide is kind of a disclaimer slide, as I call it. What could change? Right now, we're in the triennial valuation update. We haven't gotten those final valuations yet, but I think we have a pretty good pulse on it. But until we have it, we don't know for sure. Property tax collections, the collections have been pretty strong. especially residential, there's not been a lot of delinquencies, with COVID and everything. Commercial-wise, there could be delinquencies based on economic factors, but I think, because we're largely a residential community, I think that the risk of large commercial delinquencies is fairly small, but it's still a factor to consider. And as we already, discussed, the Fair School Funding Plan and knowing what that would truly look like when we see the calculations, hopefully in December. Then on the expenditure side, staffing levels, we have extra staffing because of COVID and custodians, but at the same time, we're having trouble filling positions when they open up, so it could actually end up being a cost savings if we can't fill positions. So we'll see how that pans out. In future healthcare rates, typically we see an 8% increase in healthcare rates, but with COVID, we're self-insured. When COVID happened, there was a lot less people going to the doctor, and elective procedures were put on hold, so our claims went down through the consortium, so we were able to have premium holidays, which is basically a month of not having to pay any health insurance rates to the consortium. We had that 2 years in a row. I didn't project a third one this year, but it is possible we could get another premium holiday, but that's yet to be determined. And a premium holiday usually saves us about $500,000 in expense. So hopefully maybe we'll have a chance of having another one this fiscal year, but it's not guaranteed yet.
What is our plan year for health benefits?
It just changed. So it used to go July 1st through June 30th, and now it's going to go January 1st through December 31st.
Starting this year.
Starting this January.
So our rates, we're set with our rates for the current year. We won't have to change again until '23.
Right. Because we saw 4%. When the consortium, we decided to change it. So on July 1st of 2021, we had a 0% rate increase, which is awesome. And then January 1st coming up, it was about a 4% increase. I think it depends on what plan it is, but it's around average of 4% increase, which is lower than the typical increase. So now we're set through December 31st of 22, and we'll know probably second half of 22 what 23 will look like. And then lastly is if there's any other changes to purchase services because of the Fair School Funding Plan. I think we have it under control that it's pretty known that the scholarship deductions, the open enrollment deductions, the charter school deductions will go away, so we think we have that number pretty good, but until we see it, we don't know for sure. Any other questions on the forecast at this point?
How clear is it with regard to open enrollment? So we, for people who may not be aware, we have a number of students who choose to come to our district. We have open enrollment, they come to our district. The old way was convoluted, but we also have students that go out who could go to Riverside and choose to go elsewhere. But it's because they're now being directly funded. Is it clear how? So if somebody is open enrolled and they're coming in, does money come with them, or how does that work? Is it clear at this point?
Until we see the calculations, it's not fully clear, but in concept. So under the old school funding, we're considered a higher wealth district. So the funding formula used to be based on $6,020 a kid, then it got reduced based on property tax valuations, and we averaged somewhere around $1,250 a kid. And so in the old days, we'd be counted for all the kids that live in our community. Now, any kid that open enrolled out somewhere else, they would deduct $6,020 from us and give it to whoever else. So if they went to Fairport, even though they gave us $1,250 for that kid, then they deduct $6,020 and give it to Fairport. So it was a net loss. It's almost like we lost 5 kids when 1 kid leaves. Being a lower wealth district like Painesville City, being a higher or a lower wealth district like Painesville City, it was kind of the opposite. They were getting funded close to that $6,020. For them, it was kind of like a net no change. And same thing for open enrollment in. Anybody came to us, we got $6,020. So every kid that we got through open enrollment, we got pretty much 5 times more money than we got for our own district kids. So that was the old way of doing it, which is quite convoluted. So the new way is now you are funded directly based on your own district's circumstances. So we will likely receive less money for an open enrollment kid. So it goes into your calculation of how many kids you have and how much you get per kid. So for that one kid, you're gonna get less money, but it'll also increase what you get for all the other kids, because you're getting, you know, you're having more kids per property tax valuation, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like, it changes the calculation for all the kids that are coming in to your district, or I mean, all the kids that are attending your district. But in a district that's a higher wealth district like us, or any other higher wealth districts, we're probably gonna see a loss in revenue. You know, it's not gonna be as beneficial to bring in open enrollment out, or open enrollment into our district as it was in the past. But until we actually see that, we don't really know. Like a district like probably Madison, which is kind of more middle of the road, it might be a benefit to keep open enrollment for, but a district like us, it probably won't be. But, you know, until we see it, you know, we don't know. And there might be talks of trying to change that, like one of the unintended consequences, because they kept saying that they didn't want to influence open enrollment one way or another. And obviously, school choice is always the hot topic, and ensuring kids have school choice. And if this is how it really works out, it kind of prohibits that, if that makes sense. You know, it would make sense for districts to continue open enrollment if they're going to lose money on it. So
much of the framework is in place, some of the details are not, so we don't have a full understanding of the impact at this point. But we're probably, it sounds like we're 75% there or more of understanding what it is, but that final details could make a difference.
And, you know, if I was a bet man, I would say it's pretty likely that it'd be less lucrative than what it was before, if that makes sense. So it wouldn't be as much of a benefit. But at the same time, there was also something they built in the formula, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but if a district, you know, said, okay, we're not doing open enrollment anymore, and any current open enrollment kids, we just say, we're not taking anymore. If your open enrollment number drops by a certain percentage, they're gonna ding you for it. So they're gonna penalize you if you just shut it off completely. So it's, what that looks like, I don't know for sure. So that it's one of those things where you have to kind of be careful that you don't just slam the door shut and end up being penalized and losing funding that way.
So we're gonna have to read the pipeline.
We haven't accepted any new open enrolled students.
It would have been nice if the state had this all done in November or prior to November, so you could do the forecast, but.
And that penalty doesn't look at the reason why you've not.
Right.
Okay.
But right now, it is based on class sizes.
Right.
You know, especially elementary way, you know, you might keep your class sizes at a good level, and to bring in more kids would not be good for that. So it's, you know, we didn't accept anybody new this year, but, you know, so we didn't, you know, it's not a big drop in it, because we have existing kids that are already factoring into our funding.
So once we approve the 5-year forecast in this agenda, you will submit that to the state, because that has to be.
Right, it has to be submitted to the state by November 30th, and then probably mid-December we'll actually see what the calculations are and then determine if we need to make any. I don't expect any type of significant changes, so we'll probably just wait till May and update the forecast at that time. And obviously, I'll give updates when we can actually see the calculations and what that looks like. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. We will now move on to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Education will be recognized by the board president or myself. She's not here. Speakers are requested to identify themselves and their topic. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone? All right, moving on. We'll move on to the consent agenda, the finance and audit. I have to flip the page. We have a motion to approve the items listed on the finance and audit consent agendas as recommended by the treasurer, items A through H.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Miley. I'm going to read the donations here. We have a donation of $11,000 and some dollars from the Gridiron Club, which was for some additional coaches for last school year. We have $1,800 from Captain's Concessions to the Riverside Girls Basketball. We have $500 from the Carfagnas to the Riverside Girls Basketball. We have $50 from Mike Gisondo to Sub-Zero. We have $250 from Fairport Dance Academy and Wellness to Recognizing RHS. And we have $239 from Buckeye Elementary for the David R. Baker Scholarship Fund. So I'd like to thank those groups and individuals for those donations. Is there any public comment on, or any board comment on the finance? All right, if not, can we call the roll?
Tom Heck,
Aye?
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Jeff Miley,
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye, motion carried. Next, we have personnel. We have a motion to approve the items listed on the personnel consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, items A through F. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on these? All right, can we call the roll, please?
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Jack Miley,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye?
Motion carried. Next up is curriculum and programming.
Motion to approve the items listed in curriculum and programming consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, item A.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll please.
Jack Miley,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Tom Heck,
Aye?
Lori Kniske.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next up, we have buildings and grounds.
Motion to approve the items listed on the buildings and grounds consent agenda, items A and B, as recommended by the superintendent. May I have a second, please?
I'll second that one.
Thank you, Mr. Miley. And so I think part of the enthusiasm from Mr. Miley is that we are selling Leroy Elementary to Leroy Township. And that's, we have gone through quite a bit of change in the last number of years with the addition of the two new elementary schools. So you look at what, obviously Madison Avenue was replaced by Riverview, but we had, Jack, what's your, Hale, thank you, what's your old school, but
Hale Road.
Hale Road, we were able to sell to the ESC, and it had some challenges, but it was still a functional building, so I'm glad that still remains in an educational use there, so I think that was a good move all the way around. Haddon is now the iSTEM location, we were able to sell that, so again, that stayed in the educational realm, which is important. And then Leroy, which many of you, probably many people who are listening, a lot of fond memories from Leroy. It's a very good school. A lot of valedictorians came from Leroy. There's a lot of school spirit there. So it was a loss with the consolidation, but I know that with Parkside that we have maintained that spirit, and obviously the physical plant is much better than Leroy. So Leroy is the last holdout, and so we're very happy that Leroy Township is happy, we are happy, everybody should be happy, and it's a good move. So
A lot of discussion, and we've been talking about it for
Our
a very
main
long time.
instructors are happiest.
yeah.
A lot of happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. Any discussion? All right, can you call the roll, please?
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Jack Miley.
Aye.
Next, we don't have it, this is not for a vote, but we have a first reading of new and revised board policies, which again, we'll have a policy committee meeting in December to review those. Next, we have the Board of Education update. Is there anything that anyone at this table would like to do?
Is this your last meeting, Jack?
Yes.
Well, then I want to thank you for all your service to the kids, not only as a board member, but also as an administrator in our district. Not too many people put as many years in trying to make things better for kids. And I know your mantra over the years has been, what's best for kids. And I think you've stuck to it over the course of the many years, especially the last 8 years on the board. So you're going to be missed by not only the administration, but also the kids that you serve.
Mr. Miley thought he was going to get out of here without having a big to-do, but we couldn't have that. So, sorry, Mr. Miley. You're not going out without nothing. We also, Jack over.
We also have a plaque for you, but since it's not December, it's not ready yet. We'll mail it to you.
I do want you to open it right now.
All right. I like those Riverside colors.
Riverside, yeah.
Huh?
I can't,
Jeez.
I know, double wrap.
Doesn't sound important.
What's that? Yeah, it's like, it's a portrait of us.
On top of his favorite ski, yes, with the scepter.
That's right.
Oh, cool, excellent.
Yes, very nice.
Yeah, very nice.
So, yeah, one of our district families, parents, she penciled those when the schools were closing.
Yeah.
Susan Chaffee, so.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hang that up, Jack, and I don't know, like the rest of the board, I just want to say, Jack, I've enjoyed sitting next to you for the past 8 years, and I've appreciated everything that you've done here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I miss you.
I'm gonna miss it, 43 years in education, so, and I've been here since '92 in Riverside, so I've always loved it, and I've loved the kids, and I've loved the community, so, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Now I'm on recess.
No calling us from the pool. What's that? Yeah, we also have a cake.
Oh, great. I gotta keep my baby.
Just telling you. If there's, is it, anybody else have any, oh, I do. Just in your mailboxes, like this week, you probably should have received the quality profile report. I got mine, I don't know, a couple days back. Very nicely done. I would suggest that anyone in the public read it. There's a lot of information in here that you can't get from other sources, so it was a very nice job, so. And with that, our next meeting is December 16th. Rescheduled from the December 14th regular meeting. And if there's nothing else, then we will call for adjournment at 8:25.
Second?
We'll call the roll.
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Jack Miley,
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye. All right, adjourned.